In an interesting turn of events today, we saw the cover for Tony Stark Iron Man #4. And it's interesting because the cover is of Tony Stark kissing the Wasp. Now, for those of you who aren't too familiar with the comics, this is actually Janet Van Dyne, not Hope Van Dyne, who will be playing the Wasp in the upcoming Ant-Man movie. This is actually a rekindling of the relationship between Iron Man and the Wasp, as they've had a relationship in the past. Their relationship started in Avengers number 224, and it was kind of weird, kind of interesting, because nobody knew who Iron Man was. It was not known that Tony Stark was Iron Man, and this was a secret from the public and from his fellow Avengers. So the Wasp and Iron Man were dating, and Janet Van Dyne had recently gotten a divorce from Hank Pym, who was the first Ant-Man. Which is a pretty interesting move for Tony, seeing as him and Ant-Man were pretty close friends. So eventually Janet learns that, hey, Iron Man is actually Tony Stark, and then she ends the relationship because Hank and Tony are so close. But it seems like they're rekindling it now, they're bringing it back, and as you can see, both of their helmets are off. So they're saying that this is not a relationship between the Wasp and Iron Man, this is a relationship between Janet Van Dyne and Tony Stark. So we'll see what really happens when this issue comes out, but I think the real question is, does this mean anything for Avengers 4 or Ant-Man and the Wasp? Ant-Man and the Wasp is only a few days away, and it seems like there are some connections now that lead me to believe that Iron Man might be making an appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So there are two major signs that Tony Stark may make an appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the first is obviously what we just talked about, this new issue that's coming out. As I said, Tony Stark and Janet Van Dyne have had a relationship in the past, and we all know that Janet Van Dyne is making an appearance and is going to play a major role in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So Janet's going to come out of the quantum realm, and maybe word gets out and Tony finds out somehow and wants to pay a visit to an old girlfriend. Granted, if he comes in for this specific reason, it'll be a small cameo, but I think the fans would like to see it. Second reason, Ghost is actually an Iron Man villain, not an Ant-Man villain. Ghost terrorizes and brings down huge corporations, Stark Industries being a main one in the comics. And if you've watched some of my past videos on Ant-Man and the Wasp, you'll know that I think that Black Goliath is going to be the main villain and not Ghost. I actually think Black Goliath hires Ghost to steal Hank Pym's technology and to bring down Pym Technologies. So Ghost has terrorized Tony Stark in the past, and now Ghost is going to be terrorizing Hank Pym. And as I mentioned previously, Tony and Hank were pretty close, so maybe Hank gives a call to his old buddy Tony to talk about this new villain that has appeared and taken his technology. And if this happens, I think this will be brief as well. But again, will be super cool to see Tony Stark make a cameo in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Of course, he may be too busy fighting Thanos. We're not actually quite sure of the timeline yet for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So what do you all think? What do you think of this new issue coming out that is rekindling the relationship between Janet Van Dyne and Tony Stark? And do you think Tony Stark will make an appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp that's coming out in just a few weeks? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me with some of your own theories, and be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And of course, subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers 4, and all Marvel, DC, and superhero news. Thank you so much for watching. Woof woof.